Holy fuck! That was diabolical!
Welcome to the Diabolical 7. It's Entertainment Talks podcast for the boys on Amazon Prime. I'm your host Matthew, and this is for Season 2, Episode 7, the penultimate episode for Season 2, called Butcher, Baker, Candlestick Maker, which is cool and whatever. I kind of like this episode. I kind of like it. It's got some problems still that have been repeating for the last 7 episodes. It's got a lot of interesting stuff that's going on as well. I think that there's some massive differences between some of the plots and some of the quality of them and some of the character arcs and how things are blending well together at certain points, but then also just really not at certain points as well. Just again going back to I'm going to continue to mention this until I don't think it's a problem anymore, but too many characters, structure problems. I still think this show's got both of those. Granted, we do lose a couple of people in this episode, so we'll see how that sort of plays out. But yeah, again, just structure wise, you've got a scene with Lamplighter and Huey in this episode, which lasts about 20 seconds, which is just them going into this building. I don't know why you couldn't just take that, put it in front of their later scene when they get into the main vault building, and then just go from there. Because I really did feel in this episode a bad structure was still here again, in terms of like one scene, next scene, one scene, next scene, and you're just flipping between characters so rapidly, and you're sort of on one scene with one set of characters, you flip over to Huey and Lamplighter, and then 20 seconds later you flip over to another set of characters. It's jumping around too much, and it doesn't help with the pacing. I feel like it actually hurts the pacing quite a lot in this episode. You've got Blanc Noir, who's in this episode for 30 seconds roughly. You've got a scene with him early on in the episode with him and Annie and Annie's mum, where he's in the episode for about 4 seconds, and then he's got a fight scene which lasts about 25 seconds or so. So it's not working structure wise. It's just really not. But then on the other side of the equation, you've got some really interesting scenes with Becca, with Stormfront. I think his name's Jack, the little kid, the Homelander's son. And there's just so much character depth there. There's so much potential there, and that was some of the stuff from the episode that I did really like. And was one particular line that sticks out to me in this episode, which really highlights a lot of great character development for Homeland, because Becca is kind of looking at the situation, right, and she's trying to get Stormfront and Homelander kind of out of there, and she's trying to raise, again, I think his name's Jack, she's trying to raise Jack and do a great job, and Homelander kind of storms in there with Stormfront, no pun intended. I literally did that by accident, so he storms in there with Stormfront and like, oh, you should learn about this and that, and oh, you can watch my films, they're PG-13 and they're fine for you and everything, and then flies off with Jack at the end of the not at the end of the episode, at the end of that particular scene, flies off with Jack, and Becca is left on her own because Billy's not there, Stormfront's not there, Jack's not there, Homelander's not there. But there's one particular line that really stuck out to me, which is Homelander's talking to Becca outside, and he says to her, I'm trying to, do what I can with him. And then he says, because I don't want him to go through what I have gone through. That line alone was one of the best in the entire series, I thought, because Homelander is often looked at, both by certain characters in the show, such as Becca and Billy, as just this irredeemable arsehole, which he is. He very much is. You know, he's murdered people and done terrible things and turned the press to where they think he's a good guy. But you look at that and you think, okay, fair enough. Like, yeah, you've seen kind of what Homelander's gone through a little bit, and you can kind of understand, like, with what Homelander's saying about Jack, about like, oh, he's living here, and you know, his neighborhood is kind of fake and stuff, and he doesn't really know the outside world, and he says like, oh, he's gonna be screwed when he goes to visit the real world, because he's not gonna, he's unfamiliar with certain things. I'm guessing he's being homeschooled then as well. But I think that was just such a great line to really point out that, yes, Homelander is a destructive, murderous asshole, but we've really seen in the last couple of episodes, like Stormfront, he's clearly formed a bit of a relationship there. We'll see if either of them turn on each other later, of course, but he's tried to care about his son, and he doesn't want him to go through the same kind of thing, which is not really knowing the outside world, and he wants him to just live a bit more of a normal life, which I totally kind of get. Now, am I saying that Homelander's a good guy, a good character, whatever? He's a great character to follow. He's a phenomenal character to follow. He's not a good guy. I'm not trying to say that like Homelander's redeemed himself, but I just thought that line alone in this episode is one of the best that the show's ever done, because it just gives this depth to, like, sure, there's a lot of characters that Homelander would just go and blast in the eyes or snap their necks of, but he does care a lot about Jack, and you know, if he doesn't care about you, he'll kill you. And he, you know, with, like we saw with Madison, I think that's her name, from the season 1 finale, he was just done with her, kind of thing. So if Homelander doesn't care about, because he speaks in this episode as well, I don't know if some of you noticed, about Huey, and he says like, oh, I want to go and just like rip his spine out of his body. If Homelander doesn't want you there and doesn't care about you, he'll just come and kill you, providing that he can also find you as well. So I just thought that was a really, really great line as well. So that was good. I'm really, really disappointed that they killed off Lamplighter. Now, this is based on a comic book, but because what I was going to go with there is this is based on a comic book, and he could kind of come back or whatever, but I think he's dead. I think he's dead. Now, some of you that have maybe read the comics or know that this happens to him, or I don't know. I have no idea what happens in the comics because I haven't read them, as I've said before. Maybe something happens here, but I just thought that Shawn Ashmore did a really great job. I really like Shawn Ashmore as an actor. I've not seen him in too many things, but the things I've seen him in, he's done really well as well. But you get the reasons behind it. He goes in there and he has just this moment of like, okay, I'm not in the statue thing, and you know, with other stuff that's kind of going on, and just lights himself on fire. I'm just really, really disappointed that he's gone. And I get it. Sometimes you want to shock your audience a little bit, and you want to just do something a little bit unexpected. So I'm not saying like, oh, it's this makes the show worse or whatever. I'm just disappointed because I cared about the character, and because I wanted to see more. And he was in the show for 2 episodes. And then, yes, I'm going to go there again. Yes, you've got A-Train and The Deep, who are just, I forgot about them until they showed up. It keeps happening every single episode since the start of this season. Or pretty much since the start of this season. I kind of liked The Deep at the start of the season. But yeah, they show up, they're doing this, and I just let out like the biggest sigh when The Deep came on the screen. Because you've got Stormfront, you've got Lamplighter, you've got, I think it's her name begins with B. The woman who escaped from the Soup's hospital type thing, the one that's crushing people's heads with her hand. I'll get her name properly for the next episode, but she's much more interesting, and just I did forget in this episode until the Deep and A-Train are on the screen. I forgot they were here. I really just did, because you've got other stuff going on that's so much more interesting. And I'm here to be honest and give you my honest thoughts and opinions, or opinion on the show, whatever. I'm just really disappointed that Lamplighter, to me, who was so much more of an interesting character, and Stormfront as well, but obviously Stormfront is still alive. You kill off Lamplighter, and then Deep and A-Train are just sticking around doing something, and I just don't care about them. I can't bring myself to care about them. So yeah, that's just disappointing to me. That's all. I'm not angry at the show. I'm not calling for the showrunner to get fired or anything like that. Nothing like that. I understand that you've got to put some stakes into the show, and you're making a drama show at the end of the day. And I understand it. I get it. I'm just disappointed. But I'm disappointed because I cared about the character and I wanted to see more of him. So in a way, they've done a good job because they made me care about him as well. So I suppose that's good. I'm just disappointed by the end result of that. So there we go. But let's take a quick little break here. We'll go into some housekeeping, and then we'll get into some more of the other parts of the episode. See you for that in a minute.
Hey there, I'm Aaron Holman, host of Eye to Eye, a weekly podcast talk show all about passion.
I have this passion and this fire within me that burns brighter than the fire around me.
Flow.
With performing, there's always a story to tell, whether it's my own or not.
And creativity.
I go, he's more than cute, he's creative.
All with an LGBT twist. Make sure to check out Eye to Eye, that's EYE, number 2, letter I. And rate and subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen in today.
I'm Christy.
And I'm Jackie.
And we are Killer Fun. We explore the intersection of crime and entertainment every other week.
For as long as people have been communicating, they have been talking about who did what to whom, and is that socially acceptable?
Because the boundaries of society,
crime,
and entertainment have always gone hand in hand.
The more salacious,
or weird,
the better. From books and movies
to television shows and games,
we look at how life and art imitate and inform one another.
And we can't get together and not laugh. So let's face it, there's going to be laughing.
Killer Fun is available anywhere you listen to podcasts, so join us.
If you'd like to get started with a domain name and a website today, just click on the link in the show notes and that will take you over to Koalu to get started. They also have a live support chat system that you can use, which is in the bottom right hand corner. So get started with a new website and domain name today with Koalu. Hey everybody, if you would like to get the ad-free versions of all of our podcasts and support Entertainment Talk along the way, all you need to do is head over to patreon.com/entertainment talk. Sign up either as a creator or as a Patreon. There's no difference there. That's just the option for either becoming a creator now or just staying as a patron for the moment. And then all you need to do is support us at the $1 level tier. That will get you access to all of the ad-free podcasts that we've done in the past, and get you access to all the ad-free podcasts in that month as well. So it's a great way to support us on Entertainment Talk and to get rid of the ads and get your ad-free podcasts. You can also become a patron at the $3 level tier. That gets you access to ad-free podcasts and allows you to redeem a review of a TV show or a film of entirely your choice. That's one per month for either a TV show or a film review, which is at the $3 level tier. As always, thank you very much for listening. Back to the show. Alright, recently on Entertainment Talk, what have we got for you here? Other podcasts that you can listen to. The Breaking Bad podcast is still continuing, Season 1, Episode 4, so we're still continuing to do that. The Season 1 podcasts are scheduled every week for Wednesday, so have a look out for those when they come out. So if you've not seen Breaking Bad, or if you want to rewatch it, or if you just want to listen to our opinions as we go through the first season, at least for the moment, me and David did a podcast for Breaking Bad. So you can look for that as well. But we are up to Season 1, Episode 4 so far. So you can have a look out for that. Don't skip rating for Stargirl. Me and Robert both gave it the same rating. Not a must-see and definitely not a skip rating. But we gave it a don't skip rating. Stargirl is available at the moment on the CW, DC Universe, and I'm not sure if it's quite there yet, but it will be available on HBO Max as well. If you are wondering where you can watch it in the UK, it's available on, well, the same place as The Boys, Amazon Prime. So that's the season 1 box set is all available and out to go and watch now. We did do a spoiler-free spoiler split type podcast, spoiler free section at the start, so you can check that out for DC's season 1 of Stargirl. Gaming Talk this week talked about just a whole bunch of stuff. Call of Duty Modern Warfare season 6 is out, and I gave my impressions on what's been updated for the season, but not my actual thoughts on the maps and stuff, because at that time I hadn't played any of Season 6, so there was that. The pre-orders are now live for the Xbox Series X and Series S, and for the PlayStation 5, the all-digital version included, so we talked about all of that. We also talked about, speaking of Amazon as well, they're going to be doing a new game streaming service called Amazon Luna, and me and Robert gave our thoughts on that as well, so you can have a listen to that, and just a bunch of different impressions and just lots of other stuff as well. Let's Play Sundays for Crash Bandicoot 4. This isn't for the main game, that's for the demo, that's for the second level of the demo ones that they did, so you can have a look out for that. Second episode of Analyzing Television, talking about the upcoming TV crash. If you want to know what that is, what that means, and what's going on with that, you'll find out more information on the podcast. But as you can tell from possibly the featured image for that, there is just, it's good to have options, great to have lots of stuff around to watch, but when does it become too much, and when does that, well, crash television, so to speak? So I talked about that for the second episode of Analysing Television. United cast, Man United beat Brighton 3-2 away from home. There is quite a lot to talk about for Manchester United at the moment, but I'm going to wait until we've played Tottenham Hotspur on Sunday, so I'll either do a Sunday podcast or a Monday podcast for that particular game, because there's some transfer stuff happening. Transfer deadline day will be on Monday. There's been the 3-0 win against Brighton in the Carabao Cup. Champions League draw, just a whole bunch of stuff, and I'll be talking about some more of that on the next episode as well. For the United cast, Analysing Television, the first episode talking about US TV shows without UK homes and the deals that could be done to avoid that situation, so I talked about that as well, and then of course the Boys podcast as well. So that's everything we've been doing on entertainmenttalk.org and on podcast platforms. Alright, let's talk about Billy for a minute, shall we? He goes to meet his dad in this episode, and his mum kind of lies to him, but sort of for good reason, I suppose, because she wants them to have a chat about what's going on. Billy is just clearly very angry at his dad in this episode. I really love the acting here from Cole Urban. There's a particular shot when he goes to sort of strangle his dad, and his mum breaks up the fight and everything, and Billy's just got this pure look of anger on his face, and I thought it was interesting that we finally got a little bit of context as to what Billy's dad is like, because he talks about, I think it was when they were watching sports or something, and Billy said something about, I was gone for hours, but not like you ever noticed. So seems very much like a dad who was just, he was a dad, but he was just never present, never there enough, never really very supportive, and It did add a good bit of context as to, I think a couple of episodes ago when Billy was talking about, like, can his cancer sort of hurry up and just get rid of him because he doesn't care about him. So good bit of context added towards that, so I thought that was really good for Billy's character. So I enjoyed that. That was, well, didn't enjoy it. It was a well-told part of the episode, so that was good as well. Got a little bit more of Frenchie and Kimiko. I love their little sign language exchange on the roof. They're looking over this particular building, and Kimiko does this gun sort of hand sign, and Frenchie's recognised that, and they're sort of communicating a bit better. Two characters that I really care about and really enjoy from this series. Like I said last week with Frenchie, they're doing a lot more with him, and yeah, he's one of my favourite characters in the show. So really, really like that. But again, a little bit with structure. Like that was, I don't mind. See, here's the difference, right? I said about structure. I've been saying about structure pretty much all season long for this show. Okay? You look at the scene between Lamplighter and Huey, where it's the 20-second scene, or however long it is, 30 seconds at the most, of them going into this building, talking quickly about college girls, or whatever that was. Lamplighter uses his handprint, they get in the elevator, scene's done. You can quite easily take that scene and attach it to the later one when they're actually in the building, and then you can make it a longer, better structured scene. Okay? If you look at the later scene, or the whenever it was in the episode, the scene between Kimiko and Frenchie, okay? The scene's not that long, it's about, I wasn't counting or whatever, about a minute and a half or so. It's pretty short, but it does a lot for those two characters. It shows that they're getting on a bit better, it shows that Frenchie's learning a bit more of the sign language, which is really, really important to the character of Kimiko, and it just gives a lot of good development, and it's a good, quick little scene. Now, if I'm to just compare those two scenes, because I'm talking about structure and scenes that are too short that can be put in other places, what you've achieved there with the Kimiko and Frenchie scene as opposed to the Lamplighter and Huey scene is just so much different. And yeah, just with the Frenchie and Kimiko scene, it just adds so much more to those characters. So yeah, that's why that scene works a lot better and is a lot better. Plus, it is a lot longer than the Lamplighter and Huey scene, so it's just better overall, I think, as well. So I don't know what to really add in terms of the Deep and A-Train stuff. I'm just looking through the characters and kind of going through them. Still don't care about the Deep and A-Train. They could just disappear and never show up again, and I'd never care. They could be killed off screen or on screen. I don't care. They're just not very interesting to me at all, and I'm not going to go on a long rant about it because I kind of did it last week, and I don't want to sound too sort of repetitive, but I just don't care. So yeah, that's those two. Already talked about Homelander, talked about Billy, talked a little bit about Annie as well. Let's talk about the scene with, you've got some stuff with Queen Maeve and her girlfriend in this episode. Quite rightly so, I think. The girlfriend of Queen Maeve is a bit distraught, concerned about, the airplane footage that got released, and Queen Maeve had kind of been, put in trouble through that, and Maeve flips the table. And rightly so, her girlfriend kind of is scared of her, because I think you would be in that scene. She kind of walks out on her, and then Maeve is with some guy later on, and can't remember her name, but the other woman, the woman who's kind of PR in charge of the team or whatever, she comes in and talks to them and then says like, oh, for once can you act as a human. Thought that was good, thought that was pretty good. There's not too much there, but there's, again, that's kind of, it's a little bit different to the two scenes I just talked about, because it's sort of like if you take Queen Maeve, you sort of make a setup scene, a better setup scene than what they did with Lamplighter and Huey. Like the flipping of the table and the girlfriend being scared, and that sets up some interesting things. And then Maeve later on trying to sort of establish to that other woman about like how sort of, I don't know, how it's affected her, and you can see Maeve kind of crying in the scene, and I just thought it was fairly effective. Now I do think you could structure that slightly better, because again, that's one of the show's biggest problems at the moment, is structure, too many characters, and that sort of thing. So yeah, but that's pretty much all the character stuff to talk about. Black Noir was in the episode for about 30 seconds, so there's not much to talk about there. I'd love to see more of Black Noir and to actually get some character development, and to hear him speak would be kind of interesting, I suppose. So, I mean, whenever Black Noir comes on the screen, it's quite exciting because he's usually doing something quite interesting. So I will say that. But there's just not quite enough of him in the episode, but still he's an interesting kind of cool character. I suppose I should finish off by talking about the actual end of the episode. The guy that they meet goes in to do this court appeal sort of thing. He's dead, he gets his head exploded, and then so does half a dozen people in the room. Now, I was keeping track of who got their head exploded. There was this one soup that was in there. I don't think it was like a sort of red shirt type soup. He had like an outfit on, and you could tell that he was a soup, or super, or whatever. He gets killed, but I don't recall seeing any major characters get killed other than the guy that Billy met with earlier in the episode. Good, kind of cool, explosive end to the episode. And it's funny because I said last week, not in a complaining sort of way, in a sort of joking way, that the last 2 episodes, so the previous one and the one before that, we've had 2 big Homelander kind of endings to the episode. Excuse me. And he was in that scene, but he wasn't the one causing the chaos. So I found that to be a good little sort of change of pace. Like, he was still there, he was still involved in the big climactic end to the episode, which the boys pretty much always does now, doesn't it? Which is I think quite a good energetic way to set up the next episode, is to do something quite dramatic at the end of the current episode that you're watching. So I thought that was interesting. We know obviously who's doing that. I'm guessing it's the woman from the hospital place from last week, the one that can kind of clinch her hand and explode people's heads, because no one else, I don't think anybody else on the show can do that as far as we're aware. So interesting bit of timing there as well. That was quite interesting. A little bit convenient in terms of going in favour of Homelander, because you can see that when the guy gets into the room and Billy's like, "Oh, you're screwed" or whatever. A little bit of convenience there, but I don't mind. It was used in an interesting way, so I thought that was good. So yeah, that's this episode. We only have 1 more left for the season, that's absolutely flown by. I know we started with 3, and we've kind of fast forwarded a bit in terms of pace and whatever, which I quite like. I do like that they started with 3, and you can kind of push things on for the start of the season. So I think that's good. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on episode 7 of season 2 of The Boys. Just wanted to do a little update for next week as well. Robert is going to be joining me, next week for the finale for season 2, episode 8. I don't know how long the episode will be. I guess we'll find out next week. I'm going to watch it pretty much at the same time, but we're going to be doing a podcast, on at some point on Saturday, which will be Saturday the 10th of October, just for a little date reference sort of thing. So the podcast won't be too much delayed. It'll be a day after the episode, basically. So look out for that as well. I'll get Robert's thoughts on the season, his thoughts on different characters. Very, very curious to see what he thinks of my 2 biggest complaints: the structure and Deep and A-Train. What he thinks of those. We can have a little debate about that, a conversation about it, and see how things go from there. So yeah, should be an interesting podcast for next week as well. For the the season finale already. It feels like I did the premiere podcast like 5 minutes ago. So yeah. But anyway, stick around next week for that, and then I'm sure we'll be back with season 3. Has already got renewed ages ago, didn't it? So it's already got a spin-off obviously in the works, which is interesting, that I talked about last week. But in the meantime, if you would like to send me your thoughts, feelings, questions, comments, concerns about The Boys or anything related to Entertainment Talk, your thoughts on the spin-off stuff, spin-off news, the young Soups thing that I think it's college kids, I can't quite remember at the moment, but the college sort of the young characters they're going to be doing because of the spin-off. But if you want to let me know your thoughts, feelings, questions, comments, concerns about that, The Boys, or anything related to Entertainment Talk, Matthew at entertainmenttalk.org, Twitter eTalkUK, there's a contact page and information in your show notes. So get involved, let us know what you think as well, and if you want to, prep some questions next week for Robert, if you've got any specific questions for him as well, so because he's going to be joining me next week. But thank you all very much for listening. You can find everything that we've got on entertainmenttalk.org. If you'd like to support the podcast and Entertainment Talk, that would be great as well. You can check us out on Patreon, the $1 and $3 level tiers, for instant ad-free podcast and review options. Amazon affiliate link. There's a lot of mentions of Amazon in the show, in this podcast. But if you are going to be shopping on Amazon, we can get a small cut of what you spend, but it won't cost you anything extra. iTunes feeds, please of course rate, review and subscribe to those. You can of course search for The Boys or the Diabolical 7 or Entertainment Talk on iTunes and podcast services. To get subscribed, please also rate and review as well. Word of mouth, iTunes feeds, rate, review, subscribe to those, search for those as well. You can also find Geektown, run by David of course, on iTunes. If you search for Geektown, you don't need to search for Geektown Radio, but you can find the new episodes of Geektown Radio on Tuesdays, either by searching for Geektown on iTunes and podcast services, or by heading over to geektown.co.uk. That's for your up-to-date and reliable TV and film news, so check that out as well. Bex is streaming daily at the moment over on Twitch. If you search for Trista Bytes, that is Trista Bytes. If you search for that on Twitch, you can follow her, subscribe to her, check out everything over there. She's streaming daily, so check out all that as well. Keep an eye on your emails for alerts of when she goes live or whatever the case may be, but go and search for her and all that good stuff. Word of mouth, you can simply tell people that you know about the iTunes feeds and the website, and David and Bex's stuff as well, Geektown and Trista Bytes on Twitch. Social media, you can also share our podcast and everything, and David and Bex's stuff on Facebook and Twitter, and if you can, in different Facebook groups of course, and also look out for Let's Play Sundays. Thank you all very much for listening. I'll see you next week for the season finale. Should be interesting. Should be a very interesting one. See you for that next week. Take care. Goodbye.